BM. Okay. So 11.12 in Mounce, we now come to one of those nouns that actually don't have the standard accusative singular ending. This is a wonderful word. It's the word faith. Faith. And it's pronounced pistis in Greek. Everybody, let's say that. Pistis. Pistis. So pistis is faith. And look at the way it's spelled here. Pistis. Does that look like a masculine noun?
No.
Can you tell? You normally think of masculine nouns as ending with what two letters? Omicron sigma, like logos, right? Does it look feminine to you? No. You normally think of feminine nouns as ending with alpha or eta, okay? So this is a third declension noun, and remember, in third declension nouns, all bets are off with knowing what gender it is. You just have to learn that this is actually a feminine noun, okay? So the article that you'll see with this is hey. Hey pistis. Okay, so you know that all the good words in the Greek language are feminine. Faith, hope, love, right? Those are feminine nouns. So pistis. Now take a look at the forms here. Let's just read them together real quickly, and then we'll talk about them. Everybody, pistis,
Pistis.
pisteos,
Pisteos.
piste,
Piste.
piston,
Piston.
pistes,
Pistes.
pisteon,
Pisteon.
pistisi,
Pistisi.
and pistes.
Pistes.
So there's a few oddities here, aren't there? Let's just remind ourselves what the typical case endings are for third declension. So remember, third declension, masculine and feminine. What's the genitive typically going to be?
Omicron sigma.
Okay. Oh, I'm sorry. What's the nominative?
Sigma.
So sigma,
Omicron.
omicron sigma, iota,
Alpha.
alpha, and sometimes nu. Okay, one or the other, not both. Plural,
Epsilon sigma.
epsilon sigma. Genitive plural, yes. Sigma iota for dative plural. We have a movable nu here, so you could see that or not. And then lastly,
Alpha sigma.
alpha sigma. Okay, now look at the forms that we have. Pistis becomes pisteos. Okay, so you do have this sigma here, right? So that's okay. But then we have eos. Wow, that doesn't look very much like what we've seen, does it? But here's one helpful little bit of information. You see the omega here and the omicron here? These are both O's, aren't they? So you have OS, it's just a lengthened O here. All right? So let that help you a little bit. And then after the ST, we have piste. Do you see the iota here? Okay. You see the iota here. All right? And then we have piston. This is where we don't have the alpha, we have the nu. Okay? There you go. So this is the first time we've seen that for our accusative singular. All right. Now what we have next is pistace. So I have my epsilon and then my iota sigma, right? That doesn't look very much like this, does it? But here's the dirty little secret. What this really is it's an epsilon at the end of the stem for piste, followed by an epsilon sigma. And something we're going to learn is that when two epsilons collide, they actually contract and become a diphthong called epsilon iota. So technically, the case ending is epsilon sigma, but because of this contraction, it becomes epsilon iota with the preceding epsilon, and end up not seeing it so clearly. Okay. So if that helps you, then you're fine. If it doesn't, let's completely erase that from your memory. Okay, so I then have followed by O. Now you can tell that that's genitive plural, right? I have followed by C. You can tell it's dative plural. But then another oddity about this paradigm is the accusative plural feminine for pistis is pistace. And here it ends up looking exactly like your feminine plural, nominative, right? Identical. And that's true of this one, and there are several nouns that follow the pattern of pistis. They're going to be identical here. That's not normal, right? It's the neuter nouns that usually are the same in the nominative and accusative case. So this is something that we have to learn and get used to. Okay.
Is it just on that one, or is it on all the ones that have the iota?
Yeah, it's on all nouns that follow the pattern of pistis. So here's something useful that we can do right now to see how to use your Mounce textbook. Go to the back of the Mounce textbook, to the appendix, and if I could have you go to page 347. All right? So, appendix. You know what it's called when you rip the appendix out of the back of your book, right? It's an appendectomy. That's right. Yes. Okay. It's terrible. Come on, that's awesome. So.
What would be the purpose of ripping an appendix out?
In case it gets inflamed.
Yeah, that's right. If it spontaneously combusts,
From
gets
frustration.
inflamed.
Lighter.
Yeah. All right. So pages 347 to 348, you have patterns for your nouns. On page 347, you have your first and second declension nouns. Okay? First declension nouns are those nouns that have what kind of stem, vowel stems? First declension. What's the vowel at the end of the noun stem for first declension? Alpha or eta, right? So we have first declensions that end with alpha and eta. So take a look at these. So he gives you several examples. Hora, graphe, doxa, those all end with alpha or eta in their stem, right? Look at neanias. There, that is a masculine first declension noun. Normally, our first declension nouns are what gender? Feminine. But there are some masculine first declension nouns. And when you have a masculine first declension noun, guess what you usually will see on that masculine nominative form? Well, you see a sigma, which is what you usually get for a second declension masculine noun, right? So neanias, satanas, there's the word for Satan, masculine. Prophetes, prophet, masculine. Manasseh is here, manasses. And then mna, it's feminine noun. So those are just paradigms of different types of first declension nouns that they slightly vary from one another, but for the most part, just looking at all the forms, you'd still be able to tell how to know what case these are, right? If you saw prophetu, for example, that omicron upsilon, that looks genitive singular. Even though that genitive singular omicron upsilon is what we normally associate with second declension, right? But it's actually borrowing the second declension masculine case ending and stem vowel over for its genitive singular. Everywhere else, it's going to keep the alpha or eta that we're looking for. Okay, now look at the bottom of 347. We have our second declension nouns. And what gender are second declension nouns typically? Right, masculine. And what is the stem vowel that the noun stem ends with? Omicron. And so take a look. You have logos, hadas, ergon. By the way, logos is masculine. Hadas is feminine. So there are such things not only as first declension nouns that are masculine, when they're normally feminine, but second declension nouns are usually masculine and neuter, but there are some feminine ones. Hadas is one of those. Ergon is neuter. And then we have a couple more examples here. I don't want to focus on these. I want to skip over to the next page. On page 348, this is where you get all the third declension paradigms. And look, there's lots of these, aren't there? Isn't that exciting? Yeah. All right. But here's what I want you to look at is you've got sarks, for example. This is what happens with third declension nouns where the consonantal stem ends with a cap. Okay, so sark is the noun stem, and so any other sort of kappa stem is gonna follow this kind of pattern. All right, a chorus is one that ends with a T. The noun stem ends with a T. So if there are any other noun stems ending with a tau, then it would follow the pattern of chorus. Elpis has a D stem or delta stem. So any other delta stem nouns would follow the pattern of elpis. Let's see. Look at N3E5B. It's basically the third column from the right, and it's 1, 2, 3 down. 3 nouns down. It's the word polis. You see polis? Okay, yeah, it looks like police. But the accent's on the omicron, polis. Now look at the endings of polis. Which noun is this like? Yeah, it's like pistis. Okay? So pistis and polis follow the exact same pattern. So if you know pistis, pisteos, piste, piston, then you know polis if it follows the pattern. Polis, poleos, pole, poly. Okay? Plural forms polis, poleon, policy, and then its accusative plural will be identical to its nominative plural, polis. And do you see that that's actually the case here? Right? Okay. So these charts are helpful for identifying which pattern a noun will follow. So from time to time, when we come to a new vocabulary word, I might tell you, okay, yeah, this follows the pistis or the polis pattern. This one follows the sarx pattern or whatever, all right? And you can find all of them here. If you ever want to fall asleep at night, just turn to the appendix and start reading.
Does the 3E, 5B mean anything? Or is that
Oh, yes. You have to have a secret decoder ring to understand it.
I got one.
Yeah, no. This is keyed to his book called A Morphology of the Greek New Testament, I think. I'm trying to remember. There's a place where he actually tells you what the name of that book is. Where did he say that?
Another selling knife.
Yeah. It's something that it is.
It's on page 339, and it's number 6 on that page.
Okay, thank you.
The Morphology of Biblical Greek. All right. Okay. So if you look at 11.13 now, he just tries to give you some encouraging words about why this looks so weird. And the fact of the matter is, there is a letter that has dropped out of the Greek language by the time of the Koine period. So it wasn't being written anymore, but it's still affecting the way certain things are spelled in the Greek language. When we get a little bit further along into the verbal system, we'll spend a little bit more time on this issue. But for now, just know that the name of the consonant that is not written but is affecting the spelling here is a consonantal iota. Now, let's think about that for just a minute. In English, we have a consonant called Y, right? Is Y always a consonant? No. So it makes a Y sound when it is a consonant, right? As in yes. But think about the word only. Or by. You don't pronounce only as only, right? You don't pronounce the Y as a consonant, you pronounce it as a vowel. And so, excuse me, this consonantal iota is basically an I that has a pronunciation. Okay, so you have vowels that are iotas that are vowels, but then there's this consonantal iota that was used in earlier forms of Greek. And so you'll notice that sometimes you have iotas showing up, all right? And sometimes you have epsilons for what look like the vowel stem here. And we have this alternation. Most of the time, after the sigma tau, you're going to see an epsilon, and you just try to remember in these two forms right here, in the singular nominative and accusative, you're going to get the iota, otherwise there's an epsilon as the noun stem. Okay? Technically, the stem ended with a consonantal iota. And because consonantal iota was a consonant, it's what declension pattern? Third declension, because third declension nouns have stems that end with a consonant. Okay? But since the consonantal iota is not written, this ends up looking a little bit odd to us. Okay, let's look at 11.15. Okay? 11.15. This will be the last thing we talk about here. And here we have a couple of nouns, pater and hudor. So what is pater? Yes, pater, father. You maybe have seen the Latin word pater, like pater noster is Latin for our father. Okay, and pater in Greek. Obviously, these are related; they're cognate. Notice what happens here. Pater becomes in the genitive what? Patros. So you see how the eta is missing. I have a tau, I have a rho, but my eta is gone. And then if you look at the dative, it's patri, right? So the eta is gone here. And then the accusative, patera. So let me ask you, looking at as, e, and a, do you see all the case endings you want to see? Yes, the case endings are normal. The one that's abnormal here is that there's no sigma on pater, right? We would have liked to have seen a sigma. Do you think a sigma would want to go after an R? Paters? Yeah. So there's no sigma here, but the genitives, dative, and accusative case endings are all normal. The only thing that's really strange about this noun is that between the tau and the rho, I either have an eta, an epsilon, or zero, nothing. Okay? Remember how we said that vowels can change their length, can't they? And what I'm not sure if we mentioned is that not only can vowels go from long to short, or short to long, but they can also go all the way down to nothing. They can become zero. Okay, and this is the situation here. All right, pateris, pateron, patrasi, and pateris. The patrasi form for the dative plural is also a little bit unusual there. Now look at hudor. Pater, by the way, what gender do you think pater is?
Masculine.
Ah, yes, masculine. Isn't that wonderful? Yes. Okay, so pater is masculine.
You better be.
Yes, that's right. Hudor, on the other hand, is neuter. Okay, neuter. So hudor, and look, if you are a New Orleans Saint, you might remember this. This is a long time ago. I don't know if people still talk about the New Orleans Saints with this little chant, but when I was a kid, we used to say, "Who dat say gonna beat them Saints? Who dat? Who dat?" Do people still say that?
They still say it.
Okay.
Who dat nation?
Okay. Well, it's still in vogue, huh? Even though I live closer to New Orleans now than I did in graduate school and undergraduate. I grew up in Mississippi, and New Orleans was the team to cheer for. And it was back during the days of Archie Manning. And they were the worst team ever, although they had one of the best quarterbacks ever. And I remember fans wearing paper bags over their heads, poking the eyeballs out. And instead of calling themselves the Saints, they called themselves the Aints. Because they were always losing, but they were faithful. but Hudat. So anyhow, Hudor
This time.
becomes Hudat.
They were faithful saints.
Yes, they were. Faithful saints or faithless saints. So notice here, I've got the Omicron Sigma. Drop that off, and I have Hudat, right? I got Hudat, and Hudat is my stem. But look, the nominative form is doesn't look much like that at all, right? Now, once I know Hudat is my stem here, then the dative is Hudati, right? But my accusative is always identical to what in the neuter gender? It's always identical to the nominative. So I go back to this odd form Hudor. Okay? So just keep in mind, since that's neuter, the nominative and accusative will always be the same. All right. So let's just read the forms of both of these, everybody. Pater is father. Patros, of a father. Patri, to a father. Patera, father. Like I love father. Pateris, fathers. Pateron, of fathers. Patrasi, two fathers. And pateras is fathers. All your case endings are normal here, except that nominative singular form. Okay, and then Hudor, everybody. Hudor? Hudatas. So this is water, of water. Hudati? To water.
Do in or with?
Okay, so maybe in water. And Hudor, water. And then the plural forms. Hudata, waters. Hudaton, of waters. Hudasi, to, in, or with waters. And Hudata is the waters. Now, why does Hudasi look this way? Well, it's Hu dot plus C. What happens to dentals before sigma? They drop out, right? So you won't see it. So Hudasi. Hudasi. Okay? All right. There you go. Page 96. Vocabulary. Repeat after me. Adelphos. So that's a brother. Okay, now, this little particle is on, so I guess you can say it, on. And it's used to make something contingent. That is to say to, you could add the notion of ever, so like if you had tis on, it would be whoever. Okay, so tis is who, which, all right? Tis on, whoever.
What would be another word to use that with?
It could be used with a. So if is a, and aon also can be translated as if. And no, I wouldn't want you to assume that every time you see on, you add the idea ever to it. It just raises contingency with whatever's being said. All right, and we're going to come across some forms with on later. So
how would we answer that if that's on the vocabulary test? What would we write?
An untranslatable, uninflected particle used to make a definite contingent upon something.
Whatever.
Yeah. Whatever.
Right, contingent.
Yeah, you could just put particle of contingency. How's that? Particle of contingency.
Thank you.
Because you don't really translate it. Like I could say, well, you can use hate, for example. Anybody know what hate means? Yeah, it means when. So hate is when. And you could see hatan, okay, which is hate plus on, okay? And so you could translate that as when or whenever. But if you translate it as when, it's when with some contingency. I'm not sure when he'll come, for example. Or when the Son of Man arrives, we will all be happy, right? All right. Now, moving on. Aner is a word for man, male, or husband. And look at what we've got here. The genitive singular is andros. Andros. So what declension pattern does that follow? Look at the case ending. This is a genitive case ending. Which genitive case ending is os? It's the third declension case ending. So what does that tell you? This noun is third declension. Okay. So what do you think the dative singular of andros would be? Andri. Andri. Okay. What do you think the accusative plural would be? Andra. Now, here, he mentions the appendix, I think, here. So let's just take a real quick look. You can take a look at the full pattern. What was that page?
348.
Yeah, I should probably dog ear mine.
That's what I did.
Yeah, 348. So where is on air? It's down in the bottom row, third column from the left. Okay? So just repeat after me. We'll say these. On air, Andros, Andri, Andra. We'll skip the vocative. Andres, Andron, Andrasi, Andras. Could you parse any of those forms of on air? If you know the lexical form, which is the one you're going to memorize, right? You've already got the nominative down, right? And then if you learn the genitive singular, andros, you can recognize any form of an air.
It doesn't have those vowel changes like pater.
Right. And that's why it gets its own little section here.
Just like pater.
It's similar to pater, not quite the same, right? But similar.
So it's not neuter, but it just kind of has that weird like. Oh no, that's a vocative. Never mind.
Yeah. That vocative case ending we'll talk about later. Okay, ecclesia is church or assembly, congregation. Elpis is hope, expectation, and notice the consonantal stem ends with a delta. Elpidas. So you can find out what the real stem is by taking the genitive singular, dropping the os, and you're left with elpid. Elpid. Okay. All right. Exo. Exo. So this could be used as an adverb, which means there won't be an object of the preposition. Hey, Johnny is playing exo outside. But if we want to say outside of some particular thing, then we're going to have a noun that goes after exo. And then this will function as a preposition. Outside the building, outside the gym. Right. And what case will the object of the preposition be? It'll be genitive case. That's right. Okay, next we have epi. Now, epi can take two other forms depending on whether there is a vowel starting the next word. Remember what that's called when a final vowel in a preposition falls out before, yes, before another vowel at the beginning of the next noun. It's elision. And when that happens, then you're going to have ep or f, depending upon whether the noun or word following it begins with what? Smooth or rough breathing. If the smooth breathing is at the beginning of that noun or word, you get ep with an apostrophe. Rough breathing, you get f with an apostrophe. Okay? That rough breathing is affecting the P sound. You're starting to anticipate that fricative sound. That ha, ha becomes f. Okay? Okay, so how many cases can the object of the preposition epi be in? 3. Oh, bless my soul. This, in my opinion, is the most difficult preposition to get a handle on, because these translation equivalents here, they don't even begin to exhaust all the ways that epi can be translated into English from Greek. So learn these for now, and then as you get onto more Greek studies, you'll get to look up this word in the lexicon, and it's a lengthy lexical entry. All right, so genitive case, object of the preposition, on, over, when. Okay, dative, on the basis of, at. Accusative, on, to, or against. Unfortunately, these meanings are not so vastly different that one of them jumps out at you. So if you're doing vocab cards, make a separate vocab card for each one, and treat each one like a separate vocabulary word. Okay, hemes. So this is that pronoun we. Thelema. Thelema is will or desire. This is a mot noun. So what gender is a mot noun? It's neuter, and it's third declension. Thelematas. That would actually be a really wonderful name for a child, Thelematus. Hello, Thelematus. How are you? Okay. Ide and idu. These are both from the same root, and it means see, behold, or yo. It's drawing attention to something.
Hey.
Yeah, hey, or dude. I was walking and behold, something appeared. Or I was walking and dude, something appeared. Right? So yo and dude can basically do this. Okay, next we have kalos. Kalos. Kalei. Kalon. What kind of a word is this? What part of speech is it?
It's a pretty one.
It's a pretty one, huh? No. What part of speech is it? It's an adjective. That's right. And adjectives have multiple genders, right? Nouns have how many genders? One. I mean, a specific noun has only one gender. Okay? And since adjectives have to be able to inflect for all the genders, you won't see one article telling you only one gender, right? You'll have just different forms of the genders. So what do we call this when it has three gender endings? It's a three-termination adjective, right? Three-termination adjective. Next, we have mater. Mater, and the genitive is matros. This is a lot like pater, isn't it? Yeah, beautiful. Okay, so what gender is it? Feminine. But looking at pater and looking at mater, you wouldn't know what gender it is, would you? But looking at your pater and looking at your mater, hopefully you would know what gender they are. All right, moving along. Ude. And not even or neither nor. This is u plus de. Together they form ude. All right, pater and patros, genitive form father. Pistis, faith or belief. How many of you have ever heard of the interpretive conundrum of the pistis Christou in theology? Pistis Christou is the faith of Christ. And the question is how does the genitive word Christ relate to the faith? Is Christ the one who does the faith or the faithfulness? In other words, is it a subjective genitive? Or is Christ the object of the faith? Is it our faith in Christ? Okay? But just so you know, if you've ever heard pistis Christou, it's this word right here, pistis. Hudor. Water. Water. By the way, the word for hydrant, water, a fire hydrant comes from this.
Hydro.
Yep, hydro. Hydroelectric.
Hydraulic.
Hydraulic. Yeah. Okay. Humes is y'all, youans, you guys, plural you. Phos, light. Photos, genitive of light. And photon, you know the word photon. All right. Photoelectric. Photosynthesis. All right. And then charis, grace or favor or kindness. And then hode. Hode is here. It's a rough breathing. Hode. All right. Good deal. We'll stop.